Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast. This call is being recorded. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to Tracy Cook. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the webcast, Drive Utilization with Acronis Backup Cloud for Microsoft Azure, sponsored by Acronis. I'm Tracy Cook with Redmond Channel Partner, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us. Before we get started, let me take care of a few housekeeping details. Please feel free to type your questions into the Ask a Question box on the console at any time during the presentation. We'll address as many of your questions as we can during the live event. The entire webcast is being recorded and will be archived for future viewing, and we'll send you an email when the replay is available, and that should be in approximately 24 to 48 hours, and you can access the replay using the same link you used today. And I'd like to introduce our speakers. We have two speakers from Acronis joining us today. Up a little later is John McCarrick, Acronis Partner Technology Evangelist. John is a veteran in the cloud service provider space, having worked for Parallels and Open Exchange prior to joining Acronis. John's mission is to create an active community of service providers around the Acronis product line. And coming up first is John Zanni, CMO and SVP for Cloud and Hosting Strategy at Acronis. John heads the marketing efforts and helps to define strategy for their cloud and hosting business. A former general manager for the Microsoft hosting business, John brings tremendous insight and leadership in expanding the Acronis cloud business. He's an enthusiastic and passionate speaker, and we're thrilled to have John leading our discussion today. So, John, please take it away.
Good. Thank you very much. I'll start by pointing out that one of our charters is to make sure we make it easy for you to do business with Acronis. So that's why we made sure that both of us are named John, so you can just have one name to remember during this webcast. So I want to start with some data from IDC. What does a partner look for in a vendor to work with them? And what you can see in the top three here is that you first have to have a product that's in demand. You want to work with a product that's best-in-class technology, and you want to work with a company that has a very well-run partner program. And what you will see through this webcast is that we've very focused on satisfying those three criteria. The first one is very fortunate in that 451 Research and other analysts have shown that backup is the number one requested managed service in the market today. So there's a big opportunity to provide backup services and recovery services. And we're going to show you how we'll make it easy for you to do so, and as well tap into the power of the Azure Public Cloud and eventually Azure Stack to be able to sell these services and also drive more Azure utilization. Before I go and talk about Acronis, I wanted to share some data about backup. Often people don't understand what is good data protection. What good data protection is first you need to have one system that really can back up and restore any data. That means it could be an operating system, a virtual machine, it can be applications, it can be any type of data, whether it's just bytes, blocks of data, whole systems, particular types of objects. You have to be able to manage that data how you need to. So that means that if there are huge files or lots of small files, that it's easy to move them around. And then you have to have the ability to store data in a way that is aligned with your business needs, whether it's disk, tape, or in the cloud. Now, that system has to also be the best system for your data. That means you need to feel confident that there is consistency in the way your data is backed up and recovered, that you have the most efficient system for compressing and storing your data, that your data is secure, strongly encrypted, and then you have ways to really manage and monitor your data. So this is not just about backup. It really having control over your data and what happens to it. In the past, well, let's talk about modern backup requirements. There's really two data points that matter when you think of backup and recovery. One is the recovery point objective, and the other one is the recovery time objective. Recovery point is how much time or data are you willing to lose before it has material impact to your business. So that could be anywhere from 0 to minutes, to days, to weeks or months. And then the second requirement or data point is how quickly do you need to recover. Once again, it can be minutes, days, weeks, or months. And it really depends on the business need. And the point here is the closer the blue backup dot and the green recovery dot get to the event point, the more expensive it is to provide that service, and the more difficult. Today, any RPO of over 24 hours is actually considered pretty bad, and any recovery time of greater than 1 hour is considered to be pretty bad. This is important to understand because some people might think that using Dropbox or OneDrive or a file sync and share solution for backup is sufficient. It actually isn't. One, it only backs up your files and folders, not your whole system, which means it doesn't include configurations, system settings, preferences. Also, if you have a significant number of files, it will take way more than an hour to back them up or to recover them. What's considered good today is to be able to have a recovery point objective that's less than 24 hours, so basically backing up once a day and recovering within an hour if you need to recover your system or your data. What we're working towards as an industry is to have great backup, which means that your recovery point is less than 15 minutes and your recovery time is less than 2 minutes. Today, to achieve those goals, you're talking about very, very specific scenarios, and we'll talk about some of them, or you're talking about disaster recovery. So, to summarize, you need to be able to satisfy today's modern backup requirements in terms of RPO and RTO, as well as be able to manage, control, secure your data depending on what your business needs are. And if you do that, then you have a truly modern data protection solution. I mentioned earlier that 451 had some data around the market for backup and data protection. This slide came from research funded by Microsoft with 451. And there are a couple of things I want to point out here. First, the top left, what you see is the world of where hosting or cloud was only used for infrastructure, domains, and websites is gone. That services now are a core component of how companies use the cloud, whether it's for application hosting, managed services, or security services. Now, they're changing a bit over time, but the point here is that cloud is being used more and more for a broader set of IT services. What you can see also is about half the business today have some sort of data protection service, so there's a big opportunity. What we also see is that many of these businesses in some aspect use the public cloud, and many of those who use the public cloud also built in some sort of interoperability between the public cloud and their own private cloud or their own infrastructure. And what this means is as you think of solutions, you really need to have solutions that think beyond just what's going on premises, but thinks about your data across not only your own premise, but what you might have off your premise, for example, in a public cloud. And so it's gone beyond the image of just a device and really about the image of an individual or your company. Who are we? So this is the only slide I have on us as a company. We've been around doing backup and recovery for over a decade. It's only in the last 3 years that we've started to focus on cloud services, and we've progressed steadily in terms of working with service providers to offer data protection based on our technology, as well as moving our software to a new hybrid cloud architecture. And I'll talk about that in a bit. And the result is we're seeing some fantastic growth because of that. Last year, we also added 250 service providers. We've doubled that number in the first half of this year, and we expect to now quadruple that number over the next 6 months. So I point this out because I want to iterate that point that there is a need and a demand for this service. And when you've got a company that has the right service with the right program and that is a best-in-class service, it actually becomes fairly easy to recruit partners and for them to start transacting and growing. And that's what you're seeing. And our growth is based on actual usage. So when you see these numbers, it means that our partners are actually selling our product. So I mentioned the Acronis hybrid cloud architecture. And the good news is I believe in showing what is real, so John will jump in a little bit later to actually give you a demo of what our product does. But our vision here is to really be able to protect the environments in the way that a business wants them protected, whether it's just straight backup, archiving, just storing your data, being able to provide disaster recovery services, searching on your backup data, just doing sync and share of your files, and being able to monitor your data. We want to be able to create these activities on any workload. That means whether it's stored within Microsoft Azure, whether it's Office 365, whether it's on a physical drive, virtual drive, whether it's stored in an application, or it's on your mobile device. And then once you back this up, that you have the ability to store it wherever you want. Best practices say that you should store your backed up data in 3 separate locations, of which one of them I highly recommend to be a public cloud or a cloud location. And the reason for this is that with the increased ransomware activity, today the only place that ransomware cannot access and lock you out is actually with data that's stored in the cloud. So it's actually critical that you have your backup stored in multiple locations. As you see here, we provide storage on Microsoft Azure. That's how you can drive Azure utilization, other public cloud services, as well as disk, tape, NAS, SAN, and of course any service provider cloud as well. And then the goal is to provide great flexibility in the way you recover, from full image to a single file, to bare metal, to different hardware, to go from virtual to physical, physical to virtual. You can use our product for straight migration, as some people do. And then to make sure that this data is efficiently replicated and always available. You wrap that all around a unified, centralized web console. So we believe also it is critical that you have an experience that is consistent no matter what you want to do with your data. So this becomes your data management console. And I have some interesting news about that I'll show you 2 slides from here of what we've done with our console as well as the Microsoft Azure console. We are moving all our on-prem products to the same hybrid cloud architecture so that as our install base is using those products, they can also attach to the cloud as well. And it becomes another opportunity for you as a partner. Most of the technology that we back up is Microsoft-based technology, and that makes sense. Microsoft is the dominant player in IT. But I want to make it clear here that we have a very specific focus of making sure that we are the best solution for Microsoft technology. And that's why you see here that we can take care of and protect Windows Server, Hyper-V, anything that's living on Microsoft Azure within Exchange, Microsoft SQL Server, SharePoint Active Directory, and of course Windows PCs. And as of next week, we'll be adding Office 365 as well. And of course, we also back up and recover other platforms listed here. As we know, most customers and businesses have a heterogeneous environment. There's usually a few Macs, iPhones, Android phones, Linux servers laying around as well that you need to protect. And we're unique in the market in this way, in the broad coverage that we provide to make sure you have one centralized location to protect, manage, store all of your data. So I mentioned Azure, or Microsoft Azure. So what we did here in partnership with Microsoft is we focused in 2 areas. First, we wanted to make sure that we cover every Microsoft workload, including anything that's sitting on Microsoft Azure. So if you have a VM on Microsoft Azure or an application running on it, you can absolutely back it up. Install an agent and run, and it backs it up, as well as, of course, other cloud and local workloads. We also wanted to make sure that where you store your backup is your choice, including Microsoft Azure, so you can store your data on that public cloud as well as locally or with a service provider. Then we went the extra step and integrated the experience, the portal and management experience, into the Microsoft Azure portal. So you and your customers have a choice to either use our portal or run your backups and manage them directly within the Microsoft Azure portal. And we've actually extended this to support the new Microsoft Azure Stack. So every time the technical preview comes out, we actually integrate with that as well. And when it will launch, you will be able to manage your data protection both in Microsoft Azure as well as Microsoft Azure Stack. So what I have shown you here is that we've really focused on making sure that both you and customers have full control of your data and what you do with it. That means controlling your deployment, where it goes, We have multiple licensing models, which I'll talk to later. You can control how you offer it to your customers. So we essentially wholesale, and you can create the unique offer you want to control. You control where you can store the data, how the data gets delivered, all the way from over the internet to sticking it on a hard drive and shipping it via FedEx to the data center and back. Our solution is truly multi-tier and multi-tenant, built from scratch that way, so that you can have your own channel if you want to, or you can sell direct. And we've really built a model that is designed to adapt to your business model and not ours. And because of that, it gives you the ability to control your margin, which gives you the ability to control your rate of growth, which gives you complete control of your success. And for us, that was key to make sure that we provided a solution that really snaps into the way you want to run your business. With that, I'm going to hand off to John McCarrick. He is going to show you what this product is really about and why we're seeing so much growth in utilization, because we've made it very, very easy to use. John?
Thanks a lot, John. I'm opening up my screen share now, and if you guys could let me know that you've seen it.
Yeah, we can see it looks good.
Great, thank you very much. So we're going to start off in the most obvious place to discuss our integration with Azure, and that's in the Azure dashboard. You can see here at the very top of the screen, we've actually added a bunch of simple widgets that talk to a lot of the ways that we can integrate with Azure. You'll see here we have a link over to our Acronis Backup Cloud, which I will be spending a lot of time showing you today. I've also got our Acronis Files Cloud integration here. I've got our monitoring tool and our storage gateway. So we have a lot of different things to talk to you about with regard to how you can utilize Azure. But what I really want you to take notice of right now are these two VMs here, a Windows VM and an Ubuntu VM here in the center of the screen. And the reason I'm pointing these out to you is that we launched these VMs using the VM template that we put into the marketplace. And they already have the Acronis Backup agent already loaded into them, which makes it very easy for somebody to get up and going with our product. And I'll show you, once these agents are installed in the VMs, they automatically know to deploy themselves in our management console. We'll see that in a moment. So keep that in mind as we move forward here. Anyway, we're over here into the actual product, and the product itself has two sections to it. One is the account and end user management console, and the other one is the devices and backups console. And you'll see here we've got a couple of things going on. As the MSP, I've got my list of all of my customers. I can add more customers as I want, including if I'm looking at a particular end user, I can also add units to that. So I can add end user companies, I can add units within companies, I can set them both as either a 30-day free trial or I can set them as a production unit. And then I also have my choice of what storage I want, and we'll talk about that a lot here. In addition, you'll see that I've got a quick notification of all of the utilization that's been made by each end user company, how much total space they have, what kinds of devices, and a 7-day backup history that shows the relative success or failures of their backups in the past. You'll see at the very top, at each level as I go down through, there's a summary at the top of the screen of all of the utilization made at that level in the system. If I come across here, you'll see that this is my list of companies. I can also have my list of administrators, so I can add more administrators at my level. If I was an end user, I could add more administrators to that level. But this is very important to the discussion we're having here today, and that is I have the ability to add different storage devices to the system. And those storage devices can be public clouds, including Azure. And as a matter of fact, you see here that we've got a couple of Azure integrations loaded here. And when I set up my individual user, you'll recall that I had the ability to set up where their storage was located, and I chose this top one. Storage gateway for Azure is my colloquial name that I gave to it, and we use our Azure token to register that here. We also have templates within the system that when you're setting up Azure as the storage, you can pull in our Acronis storage node technology so that that's automatically adopted, and there's very little setup to be done on that side as well. The system is also multi-tier, multi-tenant, and that means that we also include the ability to do white labeling. Resellers can choose color schemes. They can set up all of the important information about their company and run it that way as well. So I'm going to come down to this customer that we have here, Acronis Cloud, and I'm actually going to go into the Manage Backups section of it. And you'll recall a few seconds ago when we were in the Azure portal that I called to your attention two virtual machines that we had spun up inside of Azure that already had the Acronis elements in it. And so as we're waiting for this to pull up, you will now see that those two devices have already been registered here because they had the elements already in there. And when I go to click on one of these and actually perform the backup setup, you'll see that not only is this device the sourced in as a Azure workload, it is also has as its destination an Azure storage node. So in this particular case, we've got an Azure workload being backed up into an Azure storage node. Is that the most common configuration? Probably not, but I think it more than adequately points out the fact that we have a lot of flexibility in this system as to whether you have workloads in Azure that need to be backed up or whether you want to use Azure as your destination for your backups. In addition to using Azure as your destination, you can also choose to use the Acronis cloud storage as well. And then we also allow you to do something that no other cloud solution allows you to do, and let me show you that. So I'm going to set up a new backup plan. You can see that I already have some templates chosen. So let's say if I had to add 10 new devices to the system and I wanted to apply a single template to all 10 of them, I could multi-select down the list here, choose a single one, apply that plan to all of those simultaneously. But in this case, I'm going to create a new one to show you some of the features of the system. And you'll see that we have tried to simplify this experience of setting up a new backup plan to the most minimal amount of information we will require from any customer, but giving them the flexibility to dig a lot deeper if they need to. So first thing it asks, hey, what do you want to back up? In this case, we've got a VM. This VM, we can back up the entire machine, its disks and volumes, its files and folders, or a complete system state to restore it back to exactly where it is at this moment. If this particular device had also had applications such as Exchange, Active Directory, SQL, SharePoint, we could also choose application backups specific to those. Now here's the really important bit. Where can you back it up to? Well, in this case, when it says cloud storage, because this is attached to our Azure storage, this means that it will send it to Azure storage. We also have the ability to choose a local folder. And this is unique to our product. The ability to take public cloud workloads and back them up locally is incredibly important for compliance purposes. You always want to make sure you have a local copy of whatever it is that you put up in the cloud. and this allows you to do it. What's cool is once you've selected that local folder, you can then also make a copy up to the cloud. It replicates it into the cloud as well. I can actually browse down into the folders, treat this just like a normal operating system drill down. I can select specific areas and so forth that I want to drill into to place mine, including choose another hard drive that might be attached to the system. You'll see that we also have network folders, and with our most recent integration, we also have NFS shares as another option there. We then do things that you very well expect us to do as a backup provider. We figure out how frequently we'd like to schedule your backups, and we have everything from very common, run it every day, every week, every hour, to some really complicated schedules if you want to. And then the same thing with how long would you like to retain this information? Would you like to retain it a monthly, weekly, daily basis? What kind of backups would you like? Would you like to keep it indefinitely? All kinds of things in terms of choice. Now, because you're using data out on the cloud, this last feature is incredibly important, and that is the ability to encrypt it. And so we support 3 different encryption algorithms, and then you choose your password. A word of note here, if the customer does decide to choose encryption and puts in a password here, there is no backdoor. Customer loses their password, they're stuck. They don't get that backup back. But that's as it should be. This is real encryption that the customer is responsible for. I mentioned a minute ago that those features are the most common features that customers will want, but we do support everything. Everything that you'd expect from a modern backup system we have, whether it's compression, error handling, pre- and post commands for managing your databases as you're backing them up, VSS, all of those things are in here. So all the complicated features that you would want for a complete backup system we have. And then when we go to do recovery, recovery is basically a mirror of what you have in your backup settings. So depending on what you backed up is what you'll be able to recover. In this case, we backed up the disk, so I'm able to recover either the entire machine or the files and folders. And if I do choose the files and folder, again, it shows me all of the different recovery points that I have. It will then give me the full ability, and I can actually drill in here and get back an individual folder, an individual file, and pull back exactly what I want from the system. And that is without actually having to have performed a recovery. I can download it straight from this system. This is really cool, especially as we start to talk about things like mobile devices, and you'd be able to get onto your iPad and pull this stuff back as well. The system also has the ability to show you all of the agents and what's going on with that system, what the operating system is and so forth. And you'll see that we have which agent is installed. We also have the ability to perform updates against all of the agents. We can either choose to individually upgrade, force upgrades to the agents, or we can also select a setting that automatically upgrades all of the systems as new updates become available. Your choice as the provider. We also have all of the statuses that have run throughout the system. So if there was a problem, we'll be able to note it here. And then if there's an alert that's kicked out because there was a problem, we'll have a much more lengthy description of what happened. Cool thing about this alert system is just this last week, we announced our integration with ConnectWise and LabTech. And so if you're using one of those systems, we can tie directly into them. We are working on a number of other alert partners as well. And then as a final area, as a service provider, if you have another device that you need to add, whether it's another virtual machine or whether it's another physical device, all you have to do is log into a machine with a browser, choose the appropriate agent, load it, and it will automatically be sensed here in the system, and then we can apply our same backup rules to it. So lots of cool things. And if I was using my Azure device, I have the ability to go out with that Azure device and make sure it has the agent already loaded in it, and it will automatically appear in this list for me. So some really cool stuff going on. And John also mentioned that we have our Office 365 integration coming out. And since I have you here, Office 365 integration is coming out in just a few weeks, but I have a beta here to show you, and I thought that might be cool. It also points out what the experience is like when we want to do granular recovery from things like Exchange, okay? And so it's the same exact process. You'll see that we have here a listing of 5 different Office 365 accounts that are attached to a single administrative account. I have the ability to set all of my backup parameters in the same ways that I set up backup parameters for my physical devices. But here's the cool thing. When I go to do recovery, I choose my recovery point, and I have the ability to recover the entire email box or just individual email messages. And when we open up this system, we're going to see that in addition to having all the folders here, I also have calendars, contacts, tasks. Coming in our next iteration before the end of the year, we will also have OneDrive integration and SharePoint subscriptions as well. And then if I go up here to the top and look in, you'll be able to see if I double-click in, I have the entire email that I can read directly in the system. Keep in mind, I have not performed a recovery yet. I can also download any of the attachments directly. Again, I haven't performed a recovery. I can also forward this as an email to somebody, or I can do a recovery. Now, people ask, and this applies to both Azure and Office 365, why would you want to back up a cloud system? Doesn't Microsoft do a great job for me? Don't they have backup tools? And the answer is yes and no. They have backup tools in case the ordinary things occur, but they don't protect you against the somewhat unordinary but very frequently occurring items that happen. The first of which is compliance. So let's say that I have Sarbanes-Oxley or one of the other compliance. I have to have a local copy of my data to be in compliance because I don't have a promise from Microsoft that they will keep it as long as I want it to be kept there. Number 2, especially if I fail to pay for it for some reason. Number 2, sometimes people do stupid things. They do things they wish they did not do. They deleted something, and they actually went through and they deleted it on purpose. The backup system doesn't see that deletion as a mistake. It was on purpose, but because their retention rules are what they are, you might only have 5 days to recover from that. And if the retention policy is passed, you won't get it. But here's the last one. People who are not scrupulous employees sometimes delete the evidence of whatever it was that they were doing or their mistake. And so when a deletion occurs, the only thing that will save you is if you have had a local copy. And so in this case, you'll see that not only can I recover my email back to the original email address, but I can recover it back to any place. So in the case of somebody who might be deleting their own emails, I can send it to their manager, or I can send it to legal, or I can send it to their successor. So there's lots of great reasons why your customers will always need to have a local backup, even though Microsoft offers great tools for the ordinary situations which frequently occur. Anyway, with that, I'm going to pass it back. I'm going to go back to our presentation here. So let me go back here and stop sharing, and we will go to the next slide. So a couple of reiterations of some things that we've seen here. So I mentioned that we have mobile device support coming, and you can see here we have our simplified view so that you can easily and quickly start a recovery or a backup directly from your mobile device and pull back that granular control of that data in the ways that I just showed you in the Office 365 demo. We have our Office 365 demos and Office 365 backup, and as new email addresses are added to that administrative account, they automatically show up here and are synchronized here. Additionally, we can pull back a mail preview of all of that data, and we can download any of the attachments and get those back immediately. I mentioned to you that we have worked very hard to make this easy for people who are using Azure. So you can see here we've got the VM extensions inside of the Azure Marketplace so that you can quickly install virtual machines that already have our agents installed right in them. And that technology preview is available immediately for you. You can go check out that and play with that. Additionally, we have the Acronis Storage Gateway so that you can turn Azure into your backup as a service repository, and you can get that going. You can manually install the gateway today, and we're currently staging that in the marketplace as well. So lots of cool things to look forward to. And then I will pass it back to John. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, John. John and I, by the way, have worked together for a number of years across 2 companies, actually. So we're used to having the same name. Sort of fun. Anyways, so here, let me wrap up so we have time for some Q&A. I've answered the questions that have been popping up in the screen. I will repeat them at the end for those of you who are on the webcast. So our goal here was to build a solution that really fits the needs of service providers, whether you're a low-touch, high-volume service provider or an MSP, a managed service provider. And to do this, we made sure we covered all the workloads and data sources that you use, ranging from Windows and beyond, and the ones that are specific to service providers, as well as making sure that we had the flexibility in the delivery model so that you had the option that you wanted, whether it was everything hosted and managed by us to where it's hosted and managed by service provider or some mix, including using public cloud. We built this solution using an architecture that supports large scale. So thousands of servers, tens of millions of users, easy to integrate automation. So while we're quite proud with the work we've done to integrate with Microsoft Azure and its portal, the reason we could do this is because of the way we've architected our product. And as John pointed out, there are other management panels that we're integrated with. There are a few others that are listed here, including Odin Cloud Service Delivery Platform, Direct Admin, OnApp, AppDirect, and it's easy for us to add or you to add your own integration into your own custom portal. And then the last piece is that, as that IDC report showed, it's important for it to be easy to do business with us, which means that our licensing model needs to be designed to go with your business model. And I'll talk more about this here as I touch on the partner program. So the opportunity for you is really to provide data protection for all your customers. And we did that by making sure that it's very easy to do, set up a backup plan in just a few clicks, that it does cover all your data, no matter where it's stored, and that it's done at scale and at an affordable cost. So let me touch on the partner program. The program we've built is a leading program in the market, and it starts, of course, with a proven and recognized solution, which is the Acronis Backup Cloud. We designed the program to be the most profitable program for you, the partner, in the market. So we work very closely making sure we can give you as much margin as possible, that we can make it as profitable as possible for you to sell data protection based on Acronis, and that we give you all the tools you need to be perceived as an expert in this domain when talking to your customers. And then we have a tier model that's fairly standard in that the more you spend or commit to or sell, the more benefits you get. So if you take a look at it here, I'll give you an example. At the authorized level, you have access to trial software, of course, full access to our knowledge base, chat, email, and we do have a small minimum commitment of $250 a month just to make sure that you're actually serious and to cover our administrative costs. But very quickly, and $250 a month really is a couple of servers to your customers. Very quickly, you can get bigger discounts and get more benefit by just training some of your employees and coming to a larger commitment. The next level is $4,000 and then $8,000, and there's a bit of a difference for emerging markets as well. This slide is to give you an example of some of the content that we produce. So my marketing organization, I run both channel and marketing, looks at the full life cycle of acquiring, managing, and retaining, activating and retaining a customer, and making sure that we provide the content that you need to really be able to get these customers on board, running happy and staying happy. And in the early stages, we actually will bend over backwards to help you get started and be successful. This slide is the most important slide in the partner section here that I really hope you take a look at and pay attention to. First, the discounts jump up to 42% of the highest price level. So as soon as you get to $8,000 a month or more, which is just a few businesses, you get a fairly significant discount. You get another discount, of course, if you pay up front and make a commitment. But the last piece is quite unique in the market. What I've done, or what we've done, is we wanted to make sure that your barrier to entry is very, very low. So the first 90 days, you only pay for what you use, no matter what commitment you made. And then for any customer you bring on board, or if you have a channel reseller, the first full 30 days is on us. What does that mean? So today is the 29th of June. Let's wait 2 more days. So tomorrow you sign up and you recruit your first customer on June 2nd. That customer will be in trial mode for all of June, but because June 2nd means it's not a full month, they will stay in trial mode for all of July as well. And then you will get the first bill for usage actually at the end of August, and it'll only be for the August timeframe. And this is designed so that you can mitigate some of your cost of acquisition by not having to worry about paying us for usage while you're acquiring that customer, getting them to try the product, store backup, and any other activities you need to do with that customer. So really, there's no cost for you to try and onboard your customers and get them to try it. Now, you could have a shorter trial period for your customers and benefit that way as well. It's really up to you. And then we have incentive programs as well that are tied to revenue. So a percentage of the revenue we get from you, we push back in terms of marketing programs that you can use to acquire and retain more customers. The product has really been designed here to also take advantage of yours or your customers' Azure investment. So by making it easy to both back up Azure workloads and back up to Azure, it means you can really fully utilize the benefit of that public cloud. And as John showed you, it's seamless. It's just another storage point or just another VM. This means that if you're motivated to drive Azure consumption to work with Microsoft, you can do that. It also means that you have another way to protect critical workloads that come from Microsoft applications and actually put them in a Microsoft data center, be it the same one or a different one. So with that, I'm going to open it up for Q&A. I'm going to bring up the Q&A screen here, and I'll start with the questions that were asked, and then see if there's some others that pop up. There will be a link to this, as said earlier, so that you can listen to it or pass it on to others. There was a question about what are the limitations of V2V, so virtual to virtual, and do we support Windows Virtual Server 2005? As far as I know, there are no limitations. We support a very broad group of environments. We do support Virtual Server 2005. You do need to install an agent in the VM, but then you can recover it to any other VM. But do we have our own data center? Go ahead, John.
I was going to just add to your answer there, because this is not necessarily obvious for everybody, but people often think about backup just in terms of recovery, but this brings up a very good point, and that is that because we integrate with both physical and virtual devices, because we integrate with so many different kinds of devices, our backup solution is not really just a backup solution. It's also potentially a migration solution. We have a lot of people who want to move from virtual to physical, physical to virtual, virtual to virtual, virtual to cloud, cloud to virtual, all these different combinations. And when you use our backup solution, we make that really seamlessly possible. One of the other things that we do, which is really cool, that we really didn't hit on too hard, is that we have the ability to restore back to a virtual environment. And that means that when we do our restoration, we can have another VM running in the Acronis data center, if you like, where we have a virtual version of that device running so you can continue to operate while you're finishing the restore of the actual device that it came from. So some really cool things to think about beyond just, hey, it's backup.
Thank you, John. The second question is, do we have our own data center? Yes, we do. Not physical. We co-locate in certain data centers. The reason we did this is, one, to just improve our software. Secondly, is we do have some partners who want a full turnkey solution where everything is hosted and managed by us, and so we do provide that. Our core benefit is in the management and protection of your data versus where it's actually stored. But we are in, I believe, now 14 different locations around the world. Do we only provide the portal or manage solutions? The portal, and the answer is both. So we can do a fully managed solution for you, or we can only provide the portal and you completely self-serve. We'll even provide the software for the portal if you want. It's like I said, it's really what makes the most sense for you and your business and who you're serving. An example is if you have government contracts, they have very, very specific requirements who they work for or with, and so in that case, we would do extra work for the government to feel good that everything is managed and controlled by a partner that the government is comfortable with. Does file system files recovery work with Windows as well as Linux servers? Yes, it does. A number of flavors of Linux servers. The list is up on our website. Are agents required to be installed on every server, VM, mobile that I want to protect? That's a yes and no answer. So in the current versions of the current operating systems in the market today, you do not need to put an agent in the VM, only on the server. In older versions, you do need to put an agent in the VM, and certain non-window technologies, you need to put an agent in the VM. Today, we do require an agent on a mobile device that you have to install as well.
Yeah. And I would add to that, John, that there's two more things. One is that if you're using Hyper-V or you're using VMware vCenter, you just install the agent into the host. It automatically is detected for all of the VMs in there. Second thing is that in our upcoming version, not only can we recover the VMs in those devices, but we will also be able to recover the hosts, which is a fairly new and unique feature that we have.
Thank you, John. Do you have item-level recovery for apps such as Exchange, Active Directory, Exchange again, and Oracle? I guess Exchange is pretty important here. So the answer is yes for Exchange and Active Directory, as well as SharePoint, but not Oracle. Correct, John?
Correct.
Yeah. So like I said, we are a very strong Microsoft partner, so we prioritize over Microsoft apps and databases over others. Is a valid backup destination a customer-owned Azure storage account? Yes, it is. It takes a little extra work today. In a future version, we'll make it doable with fewer steps, but yes, you can use a customer's account as well. Excuse me. And then I have one more question here. Yes, you'll get yes, that one was already answered. So those are all the questions that are posted in the slide. We have 2 more minutes. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, with that, the slide up there shows where you can register and become a Acronis partner. You can learn more about Acronis at the website provided. I'm happy to answer questions or route them to the right person. My email is fairly easy to remember, jz@acronis.com. And the truth is, just start selling and talk to customers. One of our secrets is all our marketing focus is to drive customers to trial, because once we get them to trial, our conversion to win rate is very, very high, triple that of otherwise. And so really the goal here is, start playing with it and start getting your customers to try backup, and you'll never go back. With that, thank you very much, and hope to meet some of you at WPC. Both John and I will be there.
Great. Thank you, John. And John, really good presentation and demo today, and nice Q&A. So we really appreciate you taking time to be with us today. And I'd also like to thank the audience for attending. The webcast was sponsored by Acronis and presented by Redmond Channel Partner. I'd like to thank everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.